When I stood before Jesus, I saw what my millions of followers were sacrificing at the altar of my fame. What I saw broke my heart into a million pieces. Their souls were empty, and I was the one who had drained them. My name is Chloe Vance, but online, you probably knew me as Coco Che. I'm 24 years old, and on August 15, 2025, I died in a fiery car crash on the Pacific Coast Highway, and Jesus showed me the horrifying truth about the life I had built. For 6 years, my entire world was my phone. It was my job, my identity, my validation. I started as a college sophomore just posting makeup tutorials, you know? It was fun, a hobby. I never ever thought it would become what it became. By the time I was 24, I had 14 million followers on Instagram, 10 million on TikTok. My life was a blur of brand deals, press trips to Dubai and Bali, and an endless stream of packages arriving at my multi-million-dollar LA apartment. I wasn't a bad person. That's what I told myself, anyway. I was positive. I posted inspirational quotes. I told my followers to live their best life and manifest their dreams. I donated to charities and made sure to post about it. I mean, from the outside, I was a success story. A girl who built an empire from her bedroom. I worked hard, I was kind to my team, and I gave my followers what they wanted, a perfect, beautiful escape from their ordinary lives. I thought I was selling beauty products and resort wear, but Jesus showed me I was selling a gospel of emptiness, an illusion that was spiritually starving the very people who adored me. The day it happened, it was so cliché. I was driving back from a launch party for a new energy drink. I'd posted a dozen stories, me in a designer dress, clinking glasses with other influencers, the whole performance. I was a little tired, a little buzzed, and I was scrolling through the comments on my latest post while driving. It was a picture of me on a yacht, captioned, "Work hard, play harder." The comments were rolling in. "You're my everything. I wish I had your life. Queen." I was smiling, feeling that familiar rush of validation, that digital applause that had become more important to me than breathing. That's the last thing I remember. The smile on my face as I read the praise, then the blinding headlights, the sound of screeching tires, and a horrifying, crushing impact that ripped the world apart. Then there was no pain, just quiet, a profound, peaceful silence. I felt myself floating, and I looked down and saw the wreckage. The twisted metal of my pink convertible, the flames, the flashing lights of the ambulance in the distance. I saw my own body, still and broken in the driver's seat. But I wasn't scared. I felt light, free. A warm, golden light enveloped me, more beautiful and pure than anything I'd ever tried to capture with an Instagram filter. And then I saw him, Jesus. He wasn't like the paintings. He was real, powerful, and the love that poured from his eyes was so overwhelming it brought me to my knees. It was a love that saw every fake smile I'd ever posted, every moment of insecurity I'd hidden, every ounce of pride in my heart, and loved me anyway. "Chloe," he said, and his voice was like the feeling of coming home after a long, exhausting journey. Lord, I wept, the word feeling real on my tongue for the first time in my life. I expected a welcome, a well done. I had millions of people who looked up to me. I thought I'd done good. But his expression was filled with a deep, heartbreaking sorrow. He looked at me with infinite compassion and asked a question that shattered my entire existence. "My child," he said gently, "shall we look at what your fame has built?" Suddenly, the beautiful light was gone. We were standing on the edge of a vast, gray, desolate valley. It was filled with millions upon millions of people, a sea of faces stretching as far as I could see. And I recognized them. Their profile pictures flashed in my mind. They were my followers. But they didn't look like they did in their comments. They looked lost. Their faces were gaunt, their eyes empty, and they were all staring down at glowing phones in their hands, endlessly scrolling. "What is this place?" I whispered, horrified. This is the spiritual reality of the kingdom you built, Jesus said softly. Look closer. And I did. Every single one of my followers was bound by shimmering, ethereal chains. The chains linked them to their phones and to each other. I could see the words etched into the links: envy, comparison, discontent, materialism, loneliness. They were trapped, and they didn't even know it. They were worshipping an idol, and I was the one who had put it on the altar. Myself.
I watched in pure horror. This couldn't be real. But I was helping them. I cried, turning to Jesus, my voice pleading. I taught them about skincare, about confidence. I posted affirmations. I told them they were beautiful. You told them they were beautiful if they bought the right products, Jesus corrected, his voice gentle but firm, cutting through all my excuses. You taught them confidence came from the right brand of clothing. You showed them a life that was unattainable for 99% of them, and you called it aspirational. But it only created a spirit of desperate longing and comparison. He raised a hand, and the scene in the valley shifted. I was now watching a teenage girl in a small, messy bedroom. Her name was Emily. I recognized her handle. She was one of my top fans, always commenting, always defending me in arguments. On her phone, she was looking at a post of mine from last Christmas. It was a photo of me surrounded by a mountain of designer shopping bags: Chanel, Gucci, Dior. My caption was, "Treated myself this holiday season. You deserve it too, queens." Sparkles as Emily looked at my post. I could see the shimmering chain of envy around her heart glow brighter. I watched, sick to my stomach, as she took her mom's credit card from her purse. The scene fast-forwarded. I saw her hiding packages, her face etched with anxiety. I saw the screaming fight when her mom discovered the credit card bill. Thousands of dollars Emily couldn't repay. I saw her crying alone in her room, surrounded by things she thought would make her happy, making her feel like me, but she only felt shame and emptiness. She was now more miserable than ever. Every post, every story, every casual display of wealth had a spiritual consequence, Jesus said, his voice echoing in the desolate valley. You thought you were sharing your life, but you were selling a poison that made millions of people sick with discontent for the lives my father had given them. You were a high priestess in a temple of materialism, and you made them believe that their worth was measured by what they owned. The vision shifted again. Now I saw a young mother, maybe in her late 20s, hiding in her bathroom, scrolling through my feed while her kids were banging on the door. I had just posted a series about bouncing back after a vacation, showing off my perfectly toned stomach. The caption read, "No excuses, just hard work." I saw the chain of comparison tighten around the young mom's chest. I could literally feel her pain, a wave of self-loathing and despair washing over me. She looked at her own postpartum body in the mirror with disgust. She felt like a failure because she couldn't afford a personal trainer and a private chef like I had. She wasn't lazy. She was exhausted, doing her best, but my harmless post had just piled another ton of shame onto her shoulders. I didn't mean to. I sobbed, the weight of it all crushing me. I never wanted to make anyone feel that way. I was just playing the game. It's what the algorithm wants. You were a shepherd to 14 million souls, Chloe, Jesus said, his eyes now blazing with a holy fire that wasn't angry, but absolute. I entrust those with a platform with a sacred duty. Influence is not a game, it is a stewardship. You were given a voice that could have pointed them to true beauty, true worth, true and lasting joy. You could have told them they were beautifully and wonderfully made by a God who adores them. You could have shown them that peace is found in me, not in a new handbag. But you took that stewardship and you used it to build a kingdom for yourself. You made yourself the idol. They didn't worship God. They worshiped the filtered, curated image of Coco Che-Dot. He looked out at the valley of lost, scrolling souls. And the tragedy, he said, his voice dropping to a whisper, is that you were just as empty as they are. In that moment, he let me feel what I had been running from my entire adult life. The crushing loneliness, the gnawing insecurity, the constant, frantic need for more likes, more followers, more validation. It was a black hole inside me that no amount of fame or money could ever fill. I had been living in my own spiritual desert, and I was so lost that I dragged millions of people in there with me. I fell to my knees in that desolate valley, the phantom pains of millions of souls coursing through me. The emptiness was an ocean, and I was drowning in it. "I'm so sorry." I choked out the words, feeling pathetic and small. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "Your ignorance was a choice," Jesus said, not cruelly, but with the clarity of absolute truth. Every time you felt that emptiness inside you and chose to fill it with a new purchase instead of with prayer, you chose ignorance. Every time you felt insecure and sought validation from strangers online instead of from me, you chose ignorance. You built a life on a foundation of sand, and now you have seen where the tide leads. He then showed me the most terrifying vision of all. It wasn't of hellfire and demons, not for me. It was something far worse, something tailored to the deepest fears of my influencer soul. He showed me a place of absolute isolation. I was in a stark white room, completely alone. There was a phone in my hand, but the screen was a dead, black mirror. There were no likes, no comments, no followers, no connection. Just my own reflection staring back. In this place, the crushing weight of my own insignificance was the only thing that existed. All the fame, the adoration, the 14 million people who I thought loved me. It was all gone, revealed as the meaningless vapor it had always been. The torment was the silence. The torment was being utterly, completely, and eternally unseen. For someone who had built her entire identity on being watched, it was the ultimate hell. The gnawing loneliness I'd felt in my LA apartment was now an eternal, screaming void. "This is the end result of a life lived for the self," Jesus' voice echoed in the void. "You sought the adoration of the world, and so you have forfeited the fellowship of heaven. You wanted to be a god, so you are left with the only thing a god built on vanity can have, an eternity alone with yourself." I screamed. It was a raw, guttural sound of pure terror. I finally understood. My sin wasn't just posting silly videos or showing off my clothes. My sin was stealing glory. I had taken the attention, the worship, the adoration that belonged to God alone, and pointed it all at myself. I had created millions of little idolaters, and in doing so, had become the most lost of them all. "Please, Lord, mercy," I begged, prostrate on the ground before him as the vision of the white room faded. The valley of my followers was still around us. "Please, don't leave me there. I was wrong. Everything was wrong. I repent. I'll do anything. Please, just don't leave me alone." I was weeping uncontrollably, my entire being shattered by the truth. All the filters were gone. All the curated perfection was stripped away. I was just a broken, selfish, and terrified girl who had wasted her entire life chasing the wind. Jesus knelt before me, and the tenderness in his eyes returned. He placed a hand on my head, and a wave of cleansing love, pure grace, washed through me. It didn't erase the horror of what I'd done, but it met me in my brokenness. "This is the repentance I have been waiting for," he whispered. "The world does not need another influencer, Chloe. It needs witnesses. It needs people who will point the way to me." He stood and pulled me to my feet. "I am sending you back because this deception is a plague upon my people. The altar of social media is claiming the hearts of a generation. They are sacrificing their joy, their peace, and their souls for a curated lie." His face became urgent, his words a final, divine command. "You will go back and you will tell them what you have seen. Warn them. Warn the influencers who are building their own empty kingdoms. Warn the followers who are worshiping these fragile idols. Tell them the chains are real. Tell them their likes are costing them their souls. Tell them true life is found only in me." Many will not listen. They will call you crazy. They will say you are just seeking attention in a new way. But some will hear, and for the sake of the few, you must go. I felt a violent pull, like a rope tied around my soul, yanking me back toward the world. "Remember, Chloe." His voice followed me as the desolate valley and his loving face began to fade. "Your value was never in your follower count. It was in the price I paid for you on the cross. Now go and live a life worthy of that price. The last thing I felt was his love, and then an agonizing, searing pain as I was slammed back into my body. I took a sharp, gasping breath, my lungs on fire. The sound of beeping machines and frantic doctors filled my ears. I was in a hospital bed, alive. My perfect life was over, but for the first time in my memory, my real one was about to begin.